So one quarter, I was in the compliance office, so I learned everything there was to know about the compliance and the business side. One quarter I was in marketing, one quarter I was in development, and I kind of just rotated through those 2 years through every single department in athletics to learn the business side of what they do. Because at that time I thought about being an athletic director. I said, right, but looking at it after I was done, it just wasn't my passion. I love sports. I love the business side of athletics as well, but just the passion to be an athletic director, to start from the bottom after move up. If I could start at a place like Ohio State, that'd be one thing. But, I didn't have that opportunity, and I was going to have to kind of build my way up from small college where, fundraising is huge versus in a place like Ohio State where we have a solidified list of people who we know are going to give to Ohio State. So that's the big difference. And I just didn't want to do that. And that's why I kind of moved on.
Well, that makes sense. Well, how do you transition from there into your bridge to acting, which was kind of the sports casting, if I'm right? And is that kind of one of those things where, hey, you've got some familiarity in the area and some popularity, and hey, let's give this a shot and see? Did they reach out to you? How did you make that transition from sports management into the television side?
Well, the funny part was I was kind of doing both at the same time. So okay. While I was interning at Ohio State, I was working for NBC as well during football season, covering high school sports and covering Ohio State. So it was kind of, I think I had reached out. Well, it started as, they were like, hey, maybe you can come on the show and just talk a little bit about the game a little bit, give us a little analysis, and then it went pretty well. Where they were like, well, let's just do this weekly and have you do, just cover Buckeye games. And that's kind of what I did with ABC my first year. And then that next year, NBC contacted me and said, hey, we want you to be a part of our sports team and cover high school sports and cover the Buckeyes, and we'll pay you a little more money. And I was like, deal, so it was kind of a great thing that I had an opportunity to do both at the same time, because I could learn both of those. And as I was working for NBC, I just started doing some skits when I was covering high school sports, and the skits became very popular on TV to the point where that's kind of how that's when I first started thinking about acting. And I saw a guy in Columbus, and I saw him, and he sent me to his agent, and it's just to help you with the audition process and all. So I said, okay, I'll take some acting classes, and ever since then I started. I went to class with a guy named Kevin McClatchy, who has done some great things in the acting world, that lives in Columbus, and I just fell in love with it, and that's kind of how it started. And I did the class for a couple years, did some couple small things in Columbus, and then decided, hey, this is what I want to do for my living. I need to go where it's happening, and that's why I moved out to LA.
I mean, amazing. Look at the twists and turns, though. I mean, really, they say that, you end up somewhere, and look at how far removed it is from where you start, and it's
Exactly.
Amazing the journey that life takes, and you don't see it coming, and sometimes you're complaining the whole way until you get to you look back and go, oh, I ended up here. And obviously you found your passion and something else, which is so hard. You talked about being depressed. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. I ended up in radio in a very similar way. I went to broadcasting school for the TV side, for something completely different. Ended up following my, interning in radio and falling in love with it. And next thing you know, I changed all the plans and said, hey, we're going to go in this way, because you find your passion again, and obviously that's what you found in acting. Not only acting, though, we'll talk about that too, but you do some sports motivation stuff too.
Yeah. So I started a company called Motivation Unlimited, and it's it's part of my production company, but I also do motivational speaking as well. And I did a lot more when I was living in Ohio, that I could go around and speak to different places. But I haven't done as much out here in LA. When I first moved here, I did some. But, there's kind of 5 principles that I focus on, whether if I'm motivationally speaking or if I'm making movies. And those tie into education. It ties into work ethic, persistence, faith in God, and education, persistence, faith in God, work ethic, and belief in self as well. And so those are kind of the 5 things that I focus on when I'm telling a story, whether it's it's motivationally speaking or making movies. So I think those things really helps me. All of those 5 things really helps me get to where I am and become the person that I am. And I think if everyone has those 5 things, then there's nothing you can't overcome. There's nothing you can't do. So that's kind of what I focus on.
Look at the parallels, too. You and Maurice Claret. Look at the parallels between your lives. Even though they're different, there's some similarities, too, just in where you started out, the journeys you took, the way it branched off. He had his troubles just like you had your struggles, and you end up coming back, and both now in a place where you're motivating others and able to pass along your stories and your experience and help others. I think that's interesting, though, the correlation, because you kind of started out in the similar place, started a different journey, and then how it branches, but then comes back around to a very similar place in life again.
Exactly. No, I think everyone has their own path, and what God has for them is for them, and no one can take it away. And it's and I think that it's great that I found my passion, he's found his as well, and we could both help change the world together, essentially.
Pretty interesting stuff. And now, as you said, you've got your passion. It's acting, and you've really jumped headfirst into that across all mediums. I mean, I was looking at some of the stuff you've done. I mean, I've seen some of the headline stuff. You were on the Mindy Project and Sam and Cat and some of the popular shows. But, I mean, whether it's internet, all the different platforms, you've kind of really dove in headfirst. Talk to me about some of the adventures you've had and the opportunities you've had here in your early acting career.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been out here in LA for 5 years, and I was fortunate enough to work on the first national show I worked on was the Mindy Project, which comes on Fox. So that was a great opportunity, and since then I've been kind of rolling. Started and did some stuff on Nickelodeon with Sam and Cat, and just recently had a show that aired on VH1 called Hit the Floor. And now I just wrote and I'm starring in my first feature film, and that's what I'm very excited about. I'm in the process of raising funds for it, $50,000 in 40 days, and the story I wrote starts in LA but comes back to Ohio, and it's it's going to be a great movie. It's a romantic comedy, actually, which I always told myself growing up. I was like, I don't want to go see a romance, but there's nothing like a great romantic comedy. And the big thing was, I think, everybody can only deal with drama, but everyone loves to laugh. So I think that's something that stuck with me. And when I wrote it, I said, I want to make people laugh in this particular film, and that's why I wrote it. And I'm super excited about it. And it's just a matter of raising those funds in order to make it happen, and can't wait for people to see it.
Acting is a step up, or acting is a different level from deciding, you know what, I'm going to create and write and do my own movie. What made you jump to that? What made you say, you know what, now I want to try and write this thing and produce it and do that? What kind of led you there?
Yeah, well, the thing about here in LA, man, everybody's here to act or do something, in the entertainment industry. And you get to the point where you have to make your own opportunities as well. And that's kind of, how I started. I started by writing a dramatic web series back in 2012, 2013 that we ended up shooting 10 episodes of that and that's what kind of got me in the writing mode of creating my own material, and it kind of led to this. It led to this feature film now, which is my first one that I'm just really excited about. So it's just a matter of just creating your own opportunities at the same time as, you know, going out on other opportunities to audition for and things like that. So that's what it is.
And I saw you said 40 days is your fundraising thing. I see you're about 10% towards your goal here already.
Exactly. Yep. So about 10% towards the goal. It's been up for about 5 days. So we are, we're trying to get it rolling. People can donate $5, as low as $5. We also have a great special perk that, you know, some of the guys that I know from Ohio State and, you know, from another organization I'm in that are current NFL players, they're donating a pair of tickets to one of their games this year for anybody who donates, to enter to a raffle for anyone who donates $20 or more. So, you know, it's one of Malcolm Jenkins, who currently plays for the Eagles, is donating a pair of his tickets. Devere Posey, who plays for the Houston Texans, is donating a pair of his. And I got a couple friends that play for the Falcons along with the Cardinals and the St. Louis Rams. So that's 5 different teams that are donating tickets to one of their games this year for anyone who, you know, donates $20 or more. So you really can't beat that at all as well. So I'm just hoping people, you know, that I can continue to spread the word and that people get excited about it as much as I am and want to donate to the project in order to get this fundraiser.
It's one of the great things that I love about these type of things, whether it's Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the fact that somebody can go and create something and get it funded themselves. And you've done a good job. One of the keys is the perk packages, and you've got all kinds of different levels and different rewards for people, and that's a pretty cool thing. And I'm looking at it here, the tagline here: when love becomes complicated, laughter is always a good wingman. Baker's Man, a movie about friendship, obstacles, and how we overcome. And so if people want to contribute to that, they simply go to Indiegogo.com, and then would they search for Maurice Hall? Would they search for Baker's Man? How would they find you?
Just to make it easy, they can just search for Maurice Hall, and my project will come up. So just Indiegogo.com, search for Maurice Hall, and, you know, my project will be the first one that comes up.
Got 33 days left. You're 10% to your goal. And I'm going to put these links on our Facebook and Twitter as well for people, so hopefully they can go and contribute to that. It should be pretty cool when you get it all done. And then there's nothing like seeing a project through from the beginning to the end, whether it's a movie, an idea that you came up with, or whether it's a football season like you guys did in 2002 and winning a national championship. Speaking of, how many of those guys are you really still tight with? I mean, I know Ohio State, everybody's connected, but are there still guys that you're tight with to this day?
You know what? Being here in LA, you know, I don't keep in touch as much as I should. I do talk to some people every now and then. So like a Drew Carter, who also lives out here in LA. Michael Jenkins. Sometimes I talk to him over Instagram and things like that. But you know, it's a lot of people that I do keep in touch with. I talk to Maurice Claret every now and then over Twitter. But like a lot of people that I do keep in touch with is via like social media. So that's kind of how it's been.
Well, that's the great thing about social media. You can have friends. I'm the same way. I've got friends across the country in different continents, and we're all able to stay in touch. That's one of the cool things about that. But man, I'll tell you, I appreciate. Wow, we've been on this thing for 50 minutes. I really appreciate the time. This has been a great interview. I could keep going too. I've really
great. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you having me on.
No, thank you. And I mean, I think it's really, I do. I think it's, there's so many great things that it hits on for people listening to this. I mean, persistence, as you say, one of your things that you talk about. And, you know, just the ups and downs of being the man in high school and then having to find your role in college and then being a part of something that wins and then having to start all over when everything you planned goes awry, and then you find a new passion. It's such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, Maurice.
Yeah, no problem.
And again, the movie that you are attempting to fund here, it's called Baker's Man. And you guys can just go to Indiegogo.com, search for Baker's Man or search for Maurice Hall, and you can contribute to that. And I definitely will follow along with that and update people. Maurice, I'd love to have you back on in the future. Maybe during Buckeye season, we'll get you on and talk a little Buckeyes football and check on the progress of the movie.
Definitely.
So much. Oh, and if people want to reach out to you